Small intestine reabsorbs nutrients. Usually in traditional Chinese medicine, the textbook teaches small intestine reabsorbs nutrients just like biomedicine. In Chinese medicine, the small intestine is said to separate the clear and the turbid. This idea stands at the center of how the lower burner controls urine and stool. But in many modern textbooks, separate the clear and the turbid is re-explained as small intestine absorbs the refined nutrients from food and drink. That modern reading creates a gap between classical meaning and modern interpretation. We will discuss three things. First, it checks classical text to fix what separate the clear and the turbid originally meant. Second, it examines the well-known passage by Zhang Jingyue in Ming Dynasty with Lei Jing, because modern textbook claims this is the first remark about small intestine reabsorbed nutrients. Let's see how it supports the classical view. Third, we will see modern critics from Zhang Xiaoxia, Zhang Fu Zhenyuan to judge whether the textbook change is historically forced or not. 1. Classical meaning of separate the clear and the turbid. Clear goes to urine, turbid goes to stool. Classical medical books describe separate the clear and the turbid as process that happens at the lower outlet of a small intestine, where the material split into two paths, one to bladder and the other to large intestine. First, E. Go states, the Lan gate, Lanmen, holds back food and drink and governs separating clear and turbid. So it is called Lan gate. The clear part sips into the bladder. Here the clear part is directly defined as what goes into the bladder, meaning the material for urine. Second, Eisha Roman makes the split even clearer. From the lower opening of the small intestine, clear and turbid are separated. The watery part enters the upper opening of the bladder and drags the filth enter the large intestine. Third, Zhenchu Dacheng repeats the same structure. At this point, clear and turbid are separated, fluids enter the bladder, and dregs and filth enter large intestine. Across these texts, separate the clear and the turbid is not described as nutrient absorption. It is described as splitting of urine-bound materials, clear and stool-bound materials. So urine-bound material is clear part and stool-bound materials are turbid part. So urine clear and feces turbid. But this separation will change in modern days textbook. The core meaning is a lower burner sorting that produces two excretions. 2. Lei Jing passage, contrast of spleen and small intestine. Many modern writers cite a passage from Zhang Jingyue to link clear in the spleen's rising function. The full passage in Lei Jing, Zhang Xianglei, goes like this. The small intestine sits below the stomach. It receives and holds the food and drink from the stomach and sorts the clear and turbid. From here, the fluids sip to front, meaning urethra, and the dregs and return to the back, anus. The spleen transforms and rises and upward. The small intestine transforms and goes downward. Therefore, it is said that transformation of substance comes from this. People connect the dot between spleen transform and rise upward with separation of clear and the turbid. But as you can see, that does not apply here. Actual meaning is very simple. Clear part goes front and turbid part goes back. And this is just contrast between spleen's transformation and small intestine's transformation. One goes up and one goes down, just like spleen and stomach. This text strengthens the classical view in two ways. First, it clearly says the sorting ends in two excretory route. Fluids sip to the front and dregs return to the back, points to the front in and back in orifice. Urine and stool. So Leiching also treats separate the clear and the turbid as a split into urination and defecation, not as nutritional absorption. The last line is a directional contrast, not a climb of small intestine absorption. The spleen rise, small intestine descends, is an up versus down comparison of the roles. Spleen raises clear essence upward, small intestine sends sorted materials downward into the two excretion. And you might be also confused with the term reabsorption and absorption, because in biomedicinal perspective, small intestine is the organ absorb the nutrient. Then why I intentionally use the term reabsorption? In Chinese medicine, actually, spleen absorbs nutrient from the turbid part, stomach processed. So spleen's main function is absorption of the nutrient. So if we need to assume small intestine absorb nutrient from food, that is kind of a reabsorption compared to spleen. From that point, it also do not make clear sense. So I would say in Chinese medicine, spleen actually take care of the biomedicinal function of small intestine. So when the patient have something like small intestinal diseases, likewise celiac disease, we do not specifically treat small intestine, but we treat mostly spleen. Spleen's transformation and transportation function. And that is the reason I use the term specifically reabsorption. Okay, let's go on with this text. Nothing here says the small intestine reabsorbs nutrients and then passes them to the spleen. The passage just contrasts two directions of the functions. It does not redefine separate the clear and the turbid into modern absorption model. 3. Modern criticism. Zhang Fu Zhenyuan reject the absorption reading. The modern book by Zhang Xiaoxia, Zhang Fu Zhenyuan, directly argues that the absorption reading is a later alteration. Separating the clear from the turbid does not mean that the small intestine absorbs the refined essence of food and drink. Rather, it refers to the lower burner. The original meaning is that at lower outlet of the small intestine, fluids seep into the bladder and dregs are passed into the large intestine. Second, since the modern period, in order to make it fit Western medicine, it has been changed and explained as a function of observing refined essence. This critique matches the classical text and the Leiching structure. The old meaning is excretory sorting, while the textbook meaning is modern overlay. The meaning of separate the clear and the turbid in the classic. Classical sources define separate the clear and the turbid in stable and concrete way. Clear part goes bladder. Turbid part goes to anus. So clear part is urine and turbid part is feces. So in the classical frame, clear is the material headed for urine and turbid is the material headed for stool. This is not the same as modern textbook claims that both urine and stools are turbid, while only reabsorbed nutrient essence rising through the spleen and stomach is clear. It's clearly contradictory. To bridge this gap, modern textbook often says urine is clear within turbid, while stool is turbid within turbid. But that moves works mainly as a patch. It tried to make the classical split fit a modern absorption theory. It does not follow naturally from the original text, which already defined the clear turbid split by the two excretions themselves. Therefore, the modern absorption-based reading of separate the clear and the turbid is best seen as first reinterpretation, an attempt to insert modern science into organ theory at any cost. The result is strained, historically uneven explanation, exactly kind of making the classic fit Western medicine that Zhang Fu Genuan criticizes.